As I say, I'll speak with the Assistant Commissioner a little later in the program. So much talk this week, though, especially today in federal parliament, about whether the government's key job-bridging stimulus, JobKeeper, will be extended or not. And then there are suggestions JobKeeper might be kept for only certain sectors of the Australian industry, like aviation, for instance. Today, too, the OECD recommended that Australia should consider extending an adapted version of emergency assistance such as JobKeeper. So the pressure's been mounting on the Prime Minister. There are forecasts suggesting that come September, when JobKeeper is due to expire, the economy and jobs could fall off the cliff. That's the terminology. Scott Morrison, though, wasn't giving too much away today.
The government has a review of the JobKeeper program, which is currently underway. As we said, it's been conducted and will be concluded in the month of June. The government will consider the recommendations of that report. I mean, these things are not done in haste.
I'll get to accountant and investment advisor Anthony Bell shortly on the show to gauge from him what employers are predicting might be the truth come September. We can't afford to fall off the cliff. But late last night in the Senate, Rex Patrick from the Centre Alliance Party blew the whistle on multinational property developer and construction giant Lendlease. Senator Patrick told the Senate that despite winning contracts in Australia to the value of $1 billion, Lendlease, he told the Parliament, does not pay $1 in corporate income tax. But the sting in the tail and his delivery was this, that Lendlease has been able to access taxpayer funds in the form of JobKeeper.
Also, in the midst of a pandemic crisis, Lendlease's retirement villages have continued their operations, and yet, remarkably, the company has been able to put its hand out for more taxpayers' money through the JobKeeper program. Lendlease's lawyers have sussed out a loophole. So, despite basically still thriving, they've managed to pull $15 million from the taxpayer. Haven't paid any tax, but they've managed to pull $15 million from the taxpayer to support their workforce during the COVID crisis. No one making that sort of money and not paying tax should be taking money from the taxpayer.
It's a fair point, isn't it? And would obviously pertain not just to Lendlease. Senator Patrick joins me right now. Rex Patrick, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm so glad you've raised this. So, in summary, the point you're trying to make is that multinationals like Lendlease have not earned the right to access taxpayer welfare in the form of schemes like JobKeeper.
Yeah, look, it's part of a broader campaign that I'm running, and your viewers will be most upset to learn that there are 220 companies that across 5 years had $850 billion in revenue and paid not a cent of tax, not a cent of corporate tax, and not contributing to the infrastructure, to the roads, to the police, to the defence forces, to the law and order assets that generally keep their operations safe and secure. And of course, Lendlease is an Australian company that has earned $43 billion over 5 tax transparency years, and again paid nothing in tax.
So let's look at that wider problem of these big corporations not paying tax. How does an entity like Lendlease get away with not paying it? Hasn't the ATO woken up?
Well, in fact, the ATO are looking at one of the things that Lendlease did in terms of its retirement village business that gave it a huge deduction, and the tax office has made a draft ruling, is under consultation with a number of companies, and Lendlease may find themselves in significant tax arrears. So, good on the tax office for doing that. But the broader point is it's not companies that dodge tax. All of the companies, those 220 companies I talked about, are all run by directors and chairmen, people who, in my view, are not exercising proper social licence. I don't allege they've done anything wrong, but they have to start contributing to all of the things that make their operation in Australia what it is. The education services, the health services for their workers. they're operating in an environment where they're just freeloading. And mum and dad taxpayers, you and I both pay more tax than Lendlease did over the last 5 tax transparency years.
And as you revealed last night, as part of that freeloading, they've got access to a lot of money attached to JobKeeper. Now, I know that JobKeeper was hastily designed, and that's part of what happens in a pandemic. You've got to get to it and get to it quickly. But was there anything stated by the Treasurer or Prime Minister in the beginning about maybe some of the multinationals not having access unless they pay tax, or has that just gone straight through the cracks?
Well, every time I raise this with the government, they say to me that, well, there's a difference between revenue and profit, and some of these companies simply haven't made a profit. Now, I used to be a businessman, and if my company didn't make a profit, at least in a reasonable period of time, I would start to wonder why I was in business. So that they look at these situations as companies operating lawfully, and therefore they don't have carve-outs in these sorts of circumstances. Now, it looks like Lendlease have found a method, a way in which to get JobKeeper in the face of being awarded contracts worth well over $300 million just in the last few weeks.
Well, I'm glad you raised it, and I hope some of those in the bubble in Canberra, in the media, take it up from here on in. Senator Rex Patrick, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.